800-401-6681 for free advice on your situation. 800-401-6681.
970 WDAY AM and 93.1 FM, Fargo-Moorhead.
And welcome to Weather and Ag in Focus. I'm Chief Meteorologist Dean Wysoki, along with Bridgette Readle, our wonderful and talented Ag Director. Justin has the day off today. You know what? It was so nice out, Bridgette. I'm like, let's give this guy the day off.
You're quite the kind-hearted guy there, Dean.
Some
nice
days.
work. Not
all the time, but some days. Oh, man. Well, I'll tell you what, we've got a great day in the Northern Plains here, as we've got some nice, warm, mild weather, a little breezy out there. But other than that, great harvest weather continues for our area. But like we've been saying, Bridgette, we really could use some precip. But if we can hold it off here for the most part for a couple of weeks, I think we should pretty much be done with harvest, or pretty close to it anyway. And we
really are. We're seeing so much wrap up. I'm seeing more and more pictures of folks saying, "Hey, beans, we're done. We're moving into corn."
I saw that. Yep.
And sunflowers. Yeah, so that's going great.
Awesome. And we've got some mild weather today. Currently, we're in the 70s across the valley into Lakes Country. Just an unbelievably gorgeous day. A little bit breezy with winds out of the south, but those winds are going to switch around to the northwest, and that's going to drastically change our weather over the next few days. 50s tomorrow, 40s Thursday, 40s Friday, and I hate to say it, but we might see our first few snowflakes of the season coming in here as we head into Thursday night and Friday. Nothing that's going to accumulate. Don't worry about that.
So I was going to say, you didn't want to say it, so you didn't have to.
Right.
But what you're telling me is I should probably go get my coveralls and put them in my pickup.
Probably a good idea. Yeah, it's going to,
Okay.
Some pretty chilly weather. We'll rebound it by next week, but we're still looking for that pattern change to bring some more moisture, not only to our area, but to desperately needed to the west. In fact, I've got some interesting stats here on how bad the drought is from western Nebraska through Wyoming and all the way to the west coast through Utah, and it's just heart-wrenching. But it can change, and the question is, will it?
Right.
And it's harder to break a drought. It's easier for a drought to expand than it is to contract. But I don't see a huge pattern change. I see some little nuances in a pattern change, but it probably won't last long this year. That's the problem. So.
Okay, Dean, I have a question for you on
Yeah.
that. When you just said it's harder to break a drought, and especially if it's extended versus if you're just watching your drought area expand. When we come back from ABC News, help me understand what it means when you say breaking that drought. How do we measure if we've broken that drought, number one? And number two, is there a cycle to it, or what determines when we finally leave that drought status? So for those of you who are wondering, Dean's going to explain it to me, the newbie in weather, when we come back after ABC News, right after this.
From ABC News, I'm Brian Clark. The G7 nations in a statement vowing solidarity and continued support for Ukraine following a 90-minute meeting to discuss Russia's missile strikes Monday that left at least 19 people dead in Ukraine. The U.S. support, said National Security Council spokesman John Kirby.
What we have to do is make sure that Ukraine can continue to succeed on the battlefield so that when it gets to the negotiating table, Mr. Zelensky has leverage that he needs to succeed in negotiations as well.
But that war in Ukraine could have ongoing impacts to the global economy. That's part of the warning from the International Monetary Fund, which says the worst is yet to come. The UN's financial agency downgrading its outlook for the global economy in 2023. Along with the war, they cite threats including inflation, high interest rates, and lingering effects of the COVID-19 pandemic. Prosecutors in Maryland dropped criminal charges against Adnan Syed. His conviction for killing Hae Min Lee in 1999 was questioned for years and gained national prominence in the podcast Serial. Last month, the judge overturned his conviction. The U.S. Supreme Court last term overturned New York State's gun law, ruling that the concealed weapons program violated the Second Amendment. So today, New York City Mayor Eric Adams said,
"Today we enshrine in law that Times Square is a gun-free zone."
However, a federal judge struck that down last week. The court also rejected an appeal from Dylan Roof of his death penalty conviction. He killed 9 churchgoers at a black church in 2015. Court hearing arguments today in a case that could have big implications to the pork industry. Tim Bishop arguing on behalf of farmers challenging a California proposition banning pork sales from mother pigs housed in cages with less than 24 square feet.
California wants to change farming methods everywhere to, quote, prevent animal cruelty by phasing out extreme methods of farm animal confinement.
They say it would be cost prohibitive. You're listening to ABC News.
There's still time for business owners to claim their federal aid under the Employee Retention Tax Credit Program. Cash refunds of up to $26,000 per employee are available for employers who continue to pay their employees during the COVID epidemic. Many businesses qualify and simply do not know it. All business types and industries may qualify. You can claim the credit even if you received a PPP loan. This is a cash payment and not a loan and can be claimed now. The licensed CPAs and tax professionals at Ferguson, Timar & Associates have been serving business owners across the country for over 15 years. The best part is that until you receive your cash payment, you don't pay us a dime. Our tax credit specialists are available now at 833-ERC-FILE, and your tax payment estimate is quick, easy, and free. That's 833-ERC-FILE to qualify you and your business for up to $26,000 per employee of free federal aid. Call us now at 833-ERC-FILE. That's 833-ERC-FILE.
You can always count on Miller High Life, the champagne of beers. Always crisp, always easy drinking, always just right. The perfect balance of flavor and refreshment since 1903. Welcome to the High Life. '19 Miller Brewing Company, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Celebrate responsibly.
Get more than just a great deal. Get the Luther Advantage. Every pre-owned vehicle comes with a 60-day, 2,500-mile warranty. Every pre-owned vehicle comes with a 5-day, 500-mile return policy. Use your Luther Advantage card and save on gas, or even a car wash at any Holiday Station store. Get the Luther Advantage at Luther Family Buick GMC, corner of I-29 and 32nd Avenue South in Fargo.
And welcome back. So glad to have you joining us. I'm Bridgette Readle, Ag Director, along with Chief Meteorologist Dean Wysoki. Justin Storm, our tremendous sidekick, is off today. But Dean and I, we've got this covered. And as we went to ABC News break, as the Ag Director, I am not the weather expert. That's why we have a Chief Meteorologist like Dean. So my question to you, Dean, when you mentioned that it's tougher to break a drought cycle versus how it can expand, is there a time frame to how we break that drought cycle? How do we judge when that drought cycle has ended?
That's a good question. And, you know, it's not just one rain that will do it. So let's say there's a severe drought in Florida. You get a tropical storm to come through there and basically alleviates the drought conditions. Well, those drought conditions can return very quickly unless you see a full pattern change. And that's what we need. We need to break a drought, you need multiple rains, not just one soaking rain, because a lot of times the ground is so hard, a lot of that's just going to run off, and you need that moisture to sink in. So you need multiple rain events, and I'm talking multiple, to really substantially not only put a dent in a drought, but to nearly wipe it out. Now, it has happened. Let me give you a good example is right now, Lake McConaughey, which is one of the larger lakes in the Midwest out in western Nebraska, and they get a lot of their water coming in out of the Rockies that feed into the Platte River and into parts of Lake McConaughey. Well, they're at 37% of normal. So a lot of the docks are dried up. Tough to fish now out there. And I remember it was like that back, I believe it was the 90s, and it was about the same as it was now. And it took about a year or two to wipe out that drought as we had a big pattern change, and now that's back again. So, and it's like that across the West. I mean, look at Lake Mead and numerous lakes out west. It's really going to take a major pattern change, not a temporary pattern change. We're talking a major pattern change to really alleviate that drought out in the western U.S.
You're absolutely right. Lake Mead has been a discussion topic for quite some time, and there's so much irrigation further south on the Colorado River that really depends on what happens there. So it's going to be important to see how that changes.
Right, exactly.
Awesome. Okay, now I wanted to go back to that ABC News break. There was a story on there about the fact that Prop 12 from California is currently being discussed in the Supreme Court. I brought this up before. This is a rule that the voters in California put into law saying that pork cannot be sold within their state if it has been produced in what they deemed an inhumane way. Understand that this is completely pushed by an animal activist agenda. And they're saying that that hogs had to be raised in greater than 24 square feet per hog, which takes it out of a confinement situation. They're pushing to see animals either free range or in large pens. And the case would be pigs are jerks. They'll chew on each other and hurt each other. That's why they're separated. And so by this Prop 12 going into effect, it means also pork imported from outside of the state, which would have devastating effects on the pork producers in Iowa. And so the reason this went all the way to the Supreme Court is the debate about whether or not it's legal for one state to legislate what happens in others. And if this goes to fruition, it could mean things like California can mandate you can't sell a wheat product in their state if they haven't been harvested with an electric combine, which, by the way, doesn't exist yet. But those are the types of things that could truly happen. So we don't want to see that precedent set. This argument is going on now. Likely decisions won't be made till next June. So just wanted to clarify that because, Dean, we like bacon. We want to make sure things are taken care of. And
that's for sure.
October is pork month.
Yeah. Have you celebrated? I had a nice pulled pork sandwich this morning, or this afternoon, I should say.
Oh,
it's beautiful.
Very nice. No, I actually, I'm getting there. I would venture a guess I will be getting into the pork chop stash before too terribly long.
So I wanted to quickly touch. Did you have something else, Bridgette? I'm sorry.
Nope.
No?
Keep
Okay.
going. We got some homework from a listener yesterday. We'll get to in the last
that's
segment.
right about the Erie Canal. That's right. Wanted to touch quickly on the LRC as we are about a week into the LRC now. And again, if you're just joining us, the LRC, that's a new way to forecast long term. We can forecast on cycling methods. It's proven 80% accurate 7 months out. And so watch this weekend because a big area of low pressure is going to camp out over the northern Great Lakes, and that's going to turn us windy and colder. That's going to be one of the signature storms, I believe, in the LRC cycle as this cycles back. Now, depending on the length of our cycle this year, when this same system comes back later in the winter, yowza. I mean, we're talking we will be dealing with some extremely, extremely cold weather. And I think that's going to be a signature pattern for a lot of this winter. Extremely cold shots of air, followed by brief warm-ups, and then, again, shots of extremely cold air. And that's for the northern plains. That's down into the Great Lakes and into the Northeast. So, yeah, it's... and depending if we have snow when we will have snow on the ground, but how much snow are we going to have on the ground when this pattern sets up next time around? Because remember last winter, 10 blizzards in an area, which set a record. Could we rival that this year? Boy, I don't know. We'll see. But this is a first sign of the first signature storm of the LRC. Now, the good news is it's not going to last long. It's going to last 3-4 days, but even so, if that sticks around 3-4 days in the middle of winter with a lot of wind and snow on the ground, that's not going to be pretty.
Right. So can't wait to investigate that just a little bit further. I mean,
Right.
and I say can't wait tongue in cheek. Nobody really
Yeah.
looks forward to that part, but if we can plan around it, that's
Right.
tremendous.
And the thing I'm worried about as the LRC cycle sets up, I don't see a big break in this quote-unquote drier than normal pattern. Again, if this sets up October, November, that we're drier than average, unfortunately, according to the LRC, that's going to bleed into the winter. It's going to affect our spring and summer outlook for next year, which would mean more drought conditions for our agriculture community, and that's not what we want to see. So let's, after we're done with harvest here in a couple weeks, let's hope that pattern changes. We get more stormy activity and get some more precip in the area. We need it.
Well, and we do. And then above all, we got to remember that if that is what we're looking at, that factors into our tillage practices and our seed selection for next year. What crop rotation might be we fitting into? So two things.
Exactly.
Right.
So we've got a special guest coming up here after we take a short recess here. Mike Rybinski, he's a brewmaster at Zwanzig's. I hope I pronounced that right, Mike. But he's a brewmaster, and he's got a great story on how he translated from being a bartender. I knew Mike from back in college. He was one of the best bartenders, I'll say that. But how did he translate from being a bartender to a brewmaster? He's got a great story on that. We'll talk to him about that, and we'll kind of touch on the price of barley and hops and what does a drought mean and has it affected his business as well. We'll talk to Mike and get the details on that coming up here after the break.
People with chronic lower back pain have often tried lots of different things, and most of those things just don't work, and they're searching things that do work. Non-surgical spinal decompression is a type of treatment done with a specialized machine that has very high success rates, and we're lucky to be one of the few clinics in the entire state that has it.
My name is Sydney, and I had debilitating back pain for 11 years. I went into the clinic to receive treatment. After 8 treatments, I had been feeling much better. After those 8 treatments, I was back to playing volleyball, golf. Dr. Z at the clinic helped me get back to the sports that I love.
A research study performed on low back patients that had already failed medical, chiropractic, and physical therapy, in other words, the surgery group, had a 90% success rate with decompression treatment. So whether it's chronic lower back pain, sciatica, knee injuries from running, neck pain, headaches, or shoulder problems, the clinic can help. Find us at theclinicnow.com. That's theclinicnow.com. theclinicnow.com.
Both Mike Huckabee and Donald Trump agree you need to read Dick Morris's new book. It's called The Return, and it's already topping bestseller lists. Former President Trump says it's a great book and urges you to get it. And Mike Huckabee recently urged every American to read The Return. In The Return, Dick Morris explains why Trump, not DeSantis, must be the candidate in 2024. He even reveals the moves Hillary Clinton is taking to prepare to run against Trump. The Return reveals Trump's secret plan to win. Newsmax says The Return is the political book of the year. The elections are coming soon. Find out why everyone is getting The Return, an Amazon #1 bestseller. Get Dick Morris's The Return in bookstores everywhere, or check out the free offer from Newsmax and save $28. Just call 800-NEWSMAX. That's 800-NEWSMAX. Or go to thereturn911.com to get your copy today. Thereturn911.com.
As a farmer, growing your business is more than just a 9-to-5. It's your life's work. That's why the Roundup Ready Extend crop system goes all in to help you stay on top. Backed by decades of innovation, offering the latest trait technology and triple herbicide tolerance, plus more weed species controlled than any other soybean system. Because you mean business, and so do we. Learn more at systemofchoice.com. Claim based on approved EPA herbicide labels as of January 2021. Read and follow pesticide label directions, grain marketing, and other stewardship practices.
I think farming picked me. I didn't pick farming. I'm not afraid to try something new. It's my farm, my family, and our future. My Channel Seedsman gets that. I get access to innovative products with personalized advice backed by data to maximize my yield potential. With Channel, I know I'll prosper for years to come.
Define your future at channel.com/future. Read and follow pesticide label directions, IRM, grain marketing, and other stewardship practices. Copyright 2022 Bayer Group. All rights reserved.
And welcome back to Weather and Ag in Focus. I'm Chief Meteorologist Dean Wysoki, along with our wonderful, talented Ag Director, Bridgette Readle, and we have a special guest today. You know, Bridgette, there's Two things we love to talk about: beer, barley, and beef. All three B's.
We are very, very good at that, Dean. Very good.
And joining us today, our special guest, Mike Rybinski. He is a master brewmaster, or just brewmaster, but we'll call him master brewmaster, at a brewery in Indiana. And Mike, thanks for joining us today.
You got it, Dean. Good to see you once again.
Good to see you. Mike and I go way back to college together. I worked at a bar with Mike, and Mike was a manager, and he was also one of the bartenders there. And Mike, you were going to college for was it engineering?
Correct, electrical engineering.
Okay. Now, how did you tell us a story on how you became brewmaster at the establishment that you're at?
Well, as you know, the bar that you frequented the most, I started a beer club there. We had 2 beer coolers in the back behind the bar, and it had St. Pauli Girl, Heineken, Bud, and Miller. And I'm like, man, there's got to be more than just that. So I stocked those coolers with micros and imports and whatnot, started a beer club. And Dave Blitzblau, who was the owner of it, I'm sure you remember him, Dean.
Oh, yeah.
We got a fun little story. Dean was painting Dave's house one summer. It was quiet in the bar scene. And Dean was also a bartender at the bar. And it was a weekday, and Dave had called me up, and he's like, have you seen Dean at all? And I'm like, well, it's past 1:05 in the afternoon, so you know what that means. He's watching the Cubs somewhere. So the same fella that we worked for, Dean also got to paint his house after the Cubs game. But going back to the story, Dave then said, there's more to we gotta get this beer thing further along than just this beer club. He bought a building in DeKalb where we went to school, and he turned it into a brew pub. And what we did was we brewed beer there for about 4 years. I didn't know anything about making the beer. Like you said, I went to school for electrical engineering, but I changed my mind once Dave had offered me the opportunity to be the general manager, the brewmaster at this brewery called Box Office Brewery. Once again, it was an old movie theater, and turning that passion for having people have fun, that's what I liked the most about being a bartender. I was a catalyst to everybody having a good time. And now making beer, I thought, wow, that'd be an awesome avenue to go down instead of being just an electrical engineer.
And Mike, how long have you been brewmaster?
Since 1994. So this is my 3rd gig down here, like you said, in southern Indiana. It's called Zwanzig's. You did pronounce it correctly. And actually, the owners, Kurt and Lisa, Kurt was actually a resident upstairs at the bar that we worked at. So it's kind of ironic that we kind of go full circle here.
Right.
Go to college.
So how did your electrical engineering degree, did that come to help you at all when you're becoming a brewmaster at all?
I would say yes, because there's a lot of hands-on here. You're fixing things. Pumps are going out. You need to know where to go to get the pumps fixed. I do soldering, welding, plumbing. There's a whole bunch of things that go wrong in a brewery that it's good to have that background in engineering to fix things. We actually moved to my present location. So you can see behind me, I got some bourbon barrels and whatnot. I used to be at the pizzeria that started all this. And I had to be probably in maybe 1,000 square feet with all this brewing equipment. We dismantled it. I had to take it all apart, put it on a trailer, haul it over 4 blocks to our new location, and then hook it all back up. So yes, electrical engineering definitely was helpful in doing what I do now.
Well, I'd also say that your favorite game was probably Tetris in order to make all those things fit in 1,000 square feet and then haul them
I
somewhere
love
else.
Tetris. Love Tetris. Love it. I play Candy Crush
I can
Saga
tell.
all the time, and it's just like Tetris. It's exactly.
And Mike, for those of us, or for those that don't know, what goes into brewing beer? How much work is actually put into that? Because it's not as easy as some people think.
No, it's not. It's a full day. If we were brewing beer today, it'd be an 8-hour day. It just starts out with 4 basic ingredients: water, hops, barley, and yeast. And I've got a picture here of some of the grain that we use. You can see there. Also, hops, right off the vine. I took these right off the vine before the show today. And obviously everybody knows what water looks like. Then yeast will convert that sugar to CO2 and alcohol. 8-hour process today. A lot of lifting of heavy bags of grain, dumping them into a mash tun, converting starch to sugar, and then transferring all that liquid into a fermenter where it meets up with the yeast, and then that yeast will convert the sugar to CO2 and alcohol. That takes anywhere from 7 to 14 days, a little bit longer if we're going to make a lager. Once it's done consuming its fuel, the yeast then settles down in the cone where what we call crashing it. So you make the beer very cold. The yeast goes dormant, concentrates in a cone. You can then save some of that yeast for the next batch, transfer all that liquid now to what's called a bright tank, which is in a cooler where it's nice and cold, and then you inject it with CO2. That takes about anywhere from a half a day to a couple days to carbonate. From there, we can go to kegs, or we can go to cans, bottles, etc.
It's a long day.
So, Mike, I have a pile of questions here related to what
Sure.
you do. And I heard you say barley. First thing I want to know is, are you using 2-row or 6-row barley? And do you do a wheat beer? So do you also source wheat? And where are you getting your grain? Because you're in Indiana. That's not necessarily a cereal growing state.
Correct. The grain we use primarily is 2-row because it's plumper than the 6-row. You get a little bit more yield from that. So most higher quality type beers are using the 2-row because of that reason. Things like Bud and Miller, they're looking to make a cheaper product. They're going to probably go more like with the 6-row because they can get a little bit more grain off the stalk when they go that route. I also use wheat. I can use rice. Oats are also used in the beer. Where do I source it from? Well, there's a couple companies. It's called Brewer Supply Group and Country Malt Group. One's in Minnesota, and the other one actually I use is sourced out of Illinois. They gather the grain from all over the world. Country Malt Group, for example, they use their out of Canada mostly. So most of my beer is 2-row out of Canada. Also from these companies, they also can sell me the hops. So everything goes on one pallet. And that's what makes it really nice for me because I can get chemicals, hops, grain, all from one stop shop. And it's all piled up onto the pallet. And it makes it a lot easier for me you save on shipping too, if you think about it.
Right.
Now the hops I was talking about, these are the cones. This is grown in the Pacific Northwest, and actually you can get it from New Zealand, Australia, etc., Europe. What we're looking for, if you can see this, we're looking for that yellow powder. That's the hop oils. We're not really looking for this the leafy substance here. And what I like to use is pelletized. So a company that will harvest the hops, they dry them, they will then pelletize them, and I will buy it. It looks kind of like rabbit food. And the beauty with that is when this stuff is dried out and you try to throw it into the brew kettle, all the steam is rising up through the flue. And what happens is all this stuff goes up as well. So pellets, a lot easier to work with, preferred over the leaf.
Awesome, awesome. Well, Mike, if you can stick with us here, we're going to have to take a break. But if you have any questions for Mike, 701-293-9000. That's 701-293-9000. Again, Mike Rybinski, brewmaster at Zwanzig Zwanzig's Brewery and Pizzeria. He'll be joining us. He'll continue with us here after the break. Again, if you have any questions for Mike, 701-293-9000. Don't forget, you can also watch us on YouTube and Acres TV. So after a short break here, we'll be right back with more questions for Mike.
Save now on premium mattresses, pillows, bases, and linens at Accord Comfort Sleep Systems directly across from Olive Garden. Find the best mattress design and construction with our exclusive technologies such as our Accord Comfort Reflex Layer, ensuring proper spinal alignment. Our Thermodyne climate control fabric is perfect for the couple sleeping hot and cold. Buy today and take it home today, or free delivery in the FM metro area. Accord Comfort Sleep Systems. You're going to love sleeping with us.
West Funeral Home in your difficult time.
For over 100 years, families of the Red River Valley have turned to West Funeral Home. Our mission is to care for grieving families with the utmost of compassion and loved ones with dignity and grace. To learn more about us, visit our website at westfuneralhome.com. Discover the difference.
West Funeral Home and Life Tribute Center. Little things make the difference.
Terry, so talk about doing business with DJ Coulter and American Family Insurance.
DJ is one of those insurance agents that's always going to be there for you. And he's always got great advice for a young family starting out, for an old family. We've got all our cars through DJ, our RVs and our boats. We took out a couple cash value life insurance policies, wanted to do long-term after we retire. DJ helped us through the steps on that.
DJ Coulter, American Family Insurance, 235-6641, djcoulter.com.
The IRS doesn't mess around. If they want your money, they'll take it. They can take your paycheck and bank accounts too, even threaten your home or business. Don't take on the IRS alone. If you owe back taxes, the smartest thing you can do is call Optima Tax Relief. The experts at Optima specialize in a powerful IRS tax assistance program called the Fresh Start Initiative. And their clients that qualify are saving thousands. One call starts the process to stop the demand letters, stop aggressive collection actions, and stop the IRS from targeting you. But don't delay. It's important to act now while you still have options. Optima is A+ rated with the Better Business Bureau. Optima has already resolved over $1 billion of tax debt for their clients. Get your life back. For tax help you need, for tax help you can trust, call Optima now for your free consultation.
Call 800-343-6460. 800-343-6460. 800-343-6460.
Optima Tax Relief.
Some restrictions apply. For complete details, please visit OptimaTaxRelief.com.
Busch Light Apple is back for 2022. It's not a cider. It's actually a beer that tastes like apple and goes down smooth.
It's been a popular seasonal beer the last 2 years, coming out with the apple harvest, and this is the third and final year they'll produce this beer. So if you've not tasted it, this year is your last chance. And if you liked it last year, then you better get to the liquor store before they're gone. Clear, crisp, light beer in the red apple colored can.
Find it in your neighborhood liquor store and take it home to your backyard or the lake. Busch Light Apple, get it now.
Oh my gosh. Have you seen it? If you haven't, we know you'll want to. Brockmeyer Tile and Stone has a gorgeous new showroom in Fargo. Really, you've got to see it. Working on your next remodel project? Want to add a touch of granite or quartz? Make sure you stop in to Brockmeyer Tile and Stone to see how we can help you elevate your design. Brockmeyer Tile and Stone will be your go-to for all your next projects, for granite and quartz and sinks too. Come experience what Brockmeyer Tile and Stone can do for you and your next project. 833 24th Avenue East, West Fargo, just south of Costco.
Fairmeadow Nursing Home in Fertile, Minnesota is expanding their team and are looking for you. If you are looking for a great career in nursing as a CNA, LPN, RN, PTA, TMA, or universal worker, check out their new wage scale, shift differential pay, benefits, and free premium for single health plan for 30+ hours a week. Flexible schedule, great retirement, and more. Be a part of their dynamic interdisciplinary team environment. Apply in person or visit their Facebook page at Fairmeadow Nursing Home and Assisted Living, Fertile, MN.
Welcome back to WDAY Weather and Ag in Focus. I'm Bridgette Readle, Ag Director, alongside Chief Meteorologist Dean Wysoki. And for those of you who are listening to our discussion today with Mike Rybinski, he is a brewmaster from Indiana. We're talking about wheat. barley, and how the weather affects all of those things along with beer. You're welcome to call us, though, at 701-293-9000 to ask your questions. You can email us agorweather@flagfamily.com. And above all, you can watch us on Facebook. Follow our page, Weather and Ag in Focus. And we are streaming live on Acres TV, where you can also watch our videos, especially because Mike is showing off his hops. And he brought up a bud to the camera, and we had a chance to see what that really looks like. So there they are. And I know you said that you're buying them from the Pacific Northwest.
Yes.
But you have them grown locally. And you're right. People don't know what those look like. So if you want to describe what they look like, and is it cheaper if you buy them from the P&W than raising them yourself?
Well, the big problem with growing up, I mean, this stuff's like a weed, okay? Once you start growing them, you start with rhizomes in the spring. They will come back every year and bigger and bigger and bigger. The problem, like I was saying earlier, is I don't like to work with the leaf part because it's too light. You need a lot. You need 5 times more leaf than you would pellet. So to pelletize it, you have to find a company that has the pelletizer, has spent the money on it to prepare that for you. So that's the route that I have to go. I've had people in the last 10 years come up to me and say, "Hey, I'm thinking about starting a hop farm. You know, do you think you would buy from me?" And I said, "Well, sure, if you can get it pelletized." Now, back in the mid '90s, we had a big, huge thing happen in the industry where there was a fire at a major warehouse. Budweiser decided that they wanted to up the bitterness of their flagship beer by 1 international bittering unit. And then weather-related problems all over the world all happened at once, the trifecta of disaster. And it was very difficult to source hops in the late 90s. At the time, I was like, well, you know, I didn't kind of believe all that was happening and going down. And it got to a point where I had to place an order, and the hop company says, "Hey, we have nothing. We have 0 hops." I had to source hops on eBay.
Yikes.
I was buying home brewers.
Wow.
From home brewers and stuff. But a neat little story, Jim Cook from Sam Adams. I have a beer called Chocolate Beer, and there's a beer festival that was just this past weekend in Denver, Colorado. And I dressed up like an Oompa Loompa and met Jim Cook at the beer fest. Got my photo taken. Well, Jim Cook that year, he realized that all the microbrewers in the country were suffering and trying to source hops. So he said, "You know what? I've got a bunch of hops available. I will sell them to you at cost. If you'd like, enter the lottery for these hops, and I will sell them to you." So I sent in my request with my picture of me as the Oompa Loompa with him, and I was one of 2 people in Illinois that was able to buy hops from Jim Cook. So I've always been a fan of Sam Adams because of that.
I am now a bigger fan of you because just the fact that you're willing to do that, we're good friends now, Mike.
Yes.
Totally on
I didn't know
board
we
with
were going to go I didn't know we were going to go the Oompa Loompa route. I would have had a photo to show you. So yes, walking down the street of Denver as the old school Oompa Loompa, the old with Gene Wilder, that Oompa Loompa.
That's awesome.
Let's say you share that picture with Wysoki and we put that on our Facebook page later.
Yeah, I can do that. I'll do that.
There we go. There we go. So Mike, a quick question. So drought conditions across the U.S., not so bad in your area, but much of the western half of the U.S. under some really bad drought conditions. How has that affected, or has it affected at all for you, the supply and price of hops or barley?
Right now we're doing okay. No major issues, but like you say, drought and or flooding will affect for sure hops. You can get a mildew that grows on the hops, and then that renders them useless. So you have to have really good conditions. I've been told this last harvest, which is going through the dryers right now, everything's been pretty good this year, but believe me, there's been past years where it's a drama. The cost has been double in some cases. Grain, not so much. I haven't had too many problems. It's hard to attribute the increases in prices just because inflation and everything else affects that. So I am paying more for raw ingredients, but it's not, sourcing the stuff isn't too bad.
So, Mike, if you know that there's going to be a drought next growing season for hops, can you purchase in advance and save money that way, or how would that work?
Well, there's a thing called the HSI, the Hop Stability Index. With time, the amount of bitterness capabilities with the hop goes down. So if I were to buy some hops from this past harvest year, and it's got an HSI of 0.3, 30% of that bitterness is going to disappear by next year, and so on and so forth. So what that means is I'm going to need to use more and more hops to keep the beer at the same bitterness level. So stocking up on hops to try to beat the price or conditions is probably not a good thing.
Gotcha.
Okay. So one more question, and this has to do with a global supply of CO2, because there's been a bit of a supply crunch over the last couple of years. Has it affected you in your business, Mike, or what are you doing to work around that?
Well, it's a good thing you mentioned that. Fortunately, my CO2 supplier is next door to where Seagram's is distilled. So they have an abundance of gas. So fortunately, I have no worries about CO2 in my region down here in southern Indiana.
That's a good thing.
That's a big positive. Nobody wants to miss out on their beer. Yeah, that's a big deal.
No doubt.
Some of the bigger breweries, they can recapture their CO2 and reuse it. That's something that I can't do. I'm too small for that.
Right. Okay.
That's great. And so, Mike, so I'm going to tell Bridgette a story here, and I'm telling you, I think you should market this, and I know you know where I'm going with this.
Oh, I know exactly where you're going.
So when
I was wondering if you were going to bring that up.
I might as well. So when Mike and I worked, we both bartended. Mike was a manager, but he bartended as well. And at the end of the night, and I know, Bridgette, you're going to cringe at this. At the end of the night, you have the rail in front of the bar that collects all the alcohol, like overpour alcohol from throughout the evening. So at closing time, we'd close, we'd wash the glasses, get everything cleaned up. So there was one night, we get done working, and I'm like, hey, have you ever taken what's in the rail and put it in a shaker with ice and tried it as a shot? And Mike, like, no, that sounds disgusting. So I tried it, and I'm telling you what, it's the most underrated drink you'll ever have.
It's underrated.
It's underrated. It is amazing, and we called it the Rail, and I tried to get Mike to sell it at the bar, but he just wouldn't do it. But it was, Bridgette, I see your face, and until you try it, it's sweet, it's bitter, it's a little bit of everything for the taste bud. It is everything.
Imagine there's ouzo, gin, vodka, Rumpelmintz, Jägermeister. It's all in the rail, and Dean's over there poured it into the shaker. It's underrated. It's underrated.
You got to try. You've got to market that.
Look, guys, I've been to some college social events, perhaps, that maybe were along those same lines. They didn't turn out that well. Let's just be honest. So I'm a little leery of what you're talking about. A little leery.
Mike, I'm telling you, market that, sell it at your place, and
I know.
And I'll just take 10% of the profits.
I'll give you all the credit. You get all the credit.
The Wysoki Rail.
Right. There you go. Yes. There you go. So, Mike, I want to thank you for joining us. It's been a blast. It's been great catching up as well. If somebody has any questions, let's say they want to be a brewmaster and they want to kind of pick your brain on things, what's the best way for people to get a hold of you?
My email's the best way. brewmastermike@comcast.net.
Okay. Are you on Twitter or anything like that?
I'm on Twitter, but I don't do a lot of tweets. So the email's the best way to find me. brewmastermike@comcast.net.
Excellent. Well, Mike, thank you so much again for joining us, and hopefully a lot of people got a lot of information just, how you brew beer and, where you started from and how successful your business is. And speaking of, one last question, how has business been? Has the economy taken a hit on you guys at all?
Actually, the pandemic obviously affected a lot of people differently because we're mostly a pizzeria first. We already had a mechanism for delivery and pickup. So fortunately, we had to close the dining room, but people were already used to having pizza delivered to their house and, coming in and just picking it up real quick. So slowed things down a little bit, but I'm telling you, beer, it doesn't really matter if it's a good economy or a bad economy. People want to drink beer, so everything was okay.
Right.
That's correct. You would be right, yes.
That's for sure. Well, Mike, thanks again for joining us, and wish you the best of luck in your business, and keep up
Thanks for having me, guys.
Keep up the great work.
Pleasure.
Thank you.
All right. And
you're welcome.
We'll take a quick break here. When we come back, we'll kind of discuss not only local weather, but national weather, because big changes across the lower 48, at least part of the lower 48. We'll have more on that coming up right after the break.
You know the voice.
1,000-mile-an-hour soup. Well, let's just get right into it, shall we? Why not? As always, a bunch of topics to toss out. We hope you respond to them. I like getting the emails, but I'd rather talk to listeners on the phone. It's just so much more fun. And that was a treat to go to A&W once in a while. Step down, go, okay, let's go. We're going to load up. Let's go. We're going to A&W. Oh, God, yes!
He's Jay Thomas, heard weekday afternoons at 2 here on AM 970 and FM 93.1 WDAY.
Do you love working on cars but don't love your current job? If so, we need to talk. Hi, I'm Matthew Carlson, owner of Fix It Forward Auto Care. We're a family-owned full-service auto repair shop looking to hire skilled automotive technicians. With our state-of-the-art shops, great work environment with competitive pay and benefits, you'll enjoy a great job with a bigger purpose and a lot of opportunity for advancement. Visit FixItForwardAutoCare.com to apply. Fix It Forward Auto Care, the name you trust for car repair.
Fix It Forward Auto Care.
Hey, it's 494 Ronnie from the Jay Thomas Show. And listen, MyPillow is having one of their biggest sales of the year, this time percale sheets. They're available in a variety of colors and sizes and are all on sale. For example, the queen size regular price, $89.98, now only $39.98 with your promo code WDAY. Order now because when they're gone, they're gone. The percale sheets are breathable and have a cool, crisp feel. These come with a 10-year warranty. Nobody else gives you that. And a 60-day money-back guarantee. Don't miss out on this incredible offer. There is a limited supply. So order now. Go to MyPillow.com, click on the radio listener square, and use promo code WDAY. You will also get deep discounts on all MyPillow products. Call 800-875-0644 and use promo code WDAY or go to MyPillow.com. That's MyPillow.com. Using promo code WDAY.
Wheat under pressure with mixed action at corn and beans and livestock mostly higher on Tuesday. This is the American Ag Network. I'm Jesse Allen with this closing market update. Well, as we wrap up trade here on the day today, traders are squaring positions and focused ahead to Wednesday's October WASDE report. That report likely to show the lowest U.S. ending wheat stocks estimate in 15 years. Now, that being said, wheat gave back about half of the gains we saw on Monday's trade amid the tensions rising between Russia and Ukraine. We still kind of gave back some of that momentum, a little bit of profit-taking possible in that wheat market on Tuesday. While corn was down a little bit, beans were up a little bit. A little bit of spreading of beans against corn, it looked like, on the day. Traders, again, kind of squaring up positions ahead of tomorrow's report as looking at all other factors that are swirling around trade as we were.
Hey, it's Bonnie Mastati from Bonnie and Friends. Join us weekday mornings beginning at 5. Coming up on our next show, we're going to get details on the Nooks and Crannies flashlight tour. That's at the historic Comstock House in Moorhead. Might you see a ghost? I don't know. That house has been around since the 1800s. We will ask. And licensed registered dietitian Elizabeth McGee will be in to answer our health, diet, and nutrition questions. All this and more in the next Bonnie and Friends beginning at 5 a.m. Join us.
Your new one-stop shop for the latest in news, weather, sports, and community happenings is WDAYRadioNow.com. Stay up to date online, on your phone, on the go. Interviews with newsmakers, all your favorite local shows on demand for those days when you don't want to miss anything. Get your forecast so you're always in the know when it comes to the weather, and find information on our shows and personalities. If it's happening now, it's happening on WDAYRadioNow.com. That's WDAYRadioNow.com.
Hey, welcome back to Weather and Ag in Focus here on WDAY, also on Acorn TV, and you can also watch us Acres TV. Jeez, man, boy, it's not even Friday yet. Jeez. And also, you can watch us on our Facebook Live and on YouTube as well. And let's touch real quickly on national weather, and then I know, Bridgette, you have some stats on Erie Canal from our caller yesterday. Nationally, yes. Okay, so we all know it's a very mild day out here right now here in the Northern Plains, and there's a strong cold front that's going to be swinging through the area as we head into the afternoon. In fact, areas out in the western Dakotas right now are in the 40s, while we're in the 70s here in the eastern part of the Dakotas. So obviously there's a front moving through. Behind that front, very strong winds. In fact, much of the central and western parts of the Dakotas and down into Nebraska under either wind advisory, high wind watch, or high wind warning. So we're going to have some really strong winds whipping through here over the next 24 hours. Other than that, the nation as a whole is very, very quiet. Really not a lot of precip. Although as this cold front does march to our south and east, there is a halfway decent shot of severe weather for areas of southern Minnesota into Iowa, and then that will stretch tomorrow down into the Great Lakes and Ohio Valley. So some needed precip there, and yes, maybe even a chance for severe weather. But other than that, we're looking at pretty quiet weather. Then our flow turns in out of the north from Canada for about 4 or 5 days. And again, that's going to be a signature storm of the LRC when that cycles back around again, dragging in even colder weather. So, but other than that, we're waiting for that big ridge out west to break down. And we're seeing some signs that may happen towards the end of the month. Maybe between the third week of the month and Halloween, we'll see that ridge break down. That will bring storm systems into the West Coast. Hopefully. That's the way it looks now. And then will that alleviate the drought? No, but it will. At least they're getting some precip out west. I mean, and that's the good news. But we're seeing signs of that ridge rebuilding back north into Canada, which would drag down more colder air for the month of November. And again, we need these systems to either undercut that ridge and ride into the West Coast and into the plains to give us any precip, because once that ridge gets established out west, it's tough. The only thing we get here are numerous clipper systems. That's not the best news because A, they don't supply a lot of moisture, and B, they supply a ton of wind and cold weather following that. So we'll keep an eye on that over the next 3 to 4 weeks and see how that actually pans out.
You know, you bring up a good point there where you said clipper systems usually don't have a lot of moisture with them. And that's probably when all of us who've grown up in the Northern Plains say, well, it's too cold to snow. Any truth to that, Dean? Is it ever really too cold to snow?
It's never too cold to snow. Now, it can be so cold that it's tough to get much moisture into there to produce a lot of snow. But it's never too cold to snow.
All right, yeah. Good to know, because obviously Grandpa was wrong.
You'd like to think it's too cold to snow, but when it's that cold, usually you have Arctic high pressure directly overhead. And with that being said, sure, you could say it's not too cold to snow, but there's just no moisture available because you have high pressure overhead, and you need moisture to make the precip. So instead of too cold to snow, I mean, back in the day, yeah, it was, oh my goodness, it's 40 below. It's just too cold to snow. No, you just got an area of high pressure and sinking air over your area. That's why it's so cold.
Excellent. All right, good to know. And now we're going to go over to our homework that we were given yesterday by one of our callers asking questions about the Erie Canal. And that question arose because we have such low river levels on the Mississippi River that it's interfering with barge traffic for both grain and fertilizer movement. Well, I don't know a lot about the Erie Canal, and one of the specific questions was how much freight still moves on that canal. And frankly, it's still quite a bit. There's not a number that tells us how much freight moves there, but overall, it just is still an incredibly active area. And remember, this canal has a series of locks through it. So this was built in 1823. That was the opening of the Erie was actually in 1825. The Champlain Canal, which there is a series of these canals that fit together, was 1823. Started construction in 1817. Put that in perspective, how long we have been using this area. Think about how the size of ships and so forth have grown since that time frame. We've done a lot in Erie in that point in time. When it was built, it cost $7 million, but they returned their investment in 10 years. And there are about 18 aqueducts used to bypass the rivers and streams. In 1825, if you wanted to travel from Albany to Buffalo using the canal, it took you 5 days. But that's better than the fact that it took you 2 weeks on a stagecoach. So
big difference.
Fun facts and history, the lesson for you there. Yeah, absolutely. And the canal, even though the railroad came to fruition and probably moved a lot more freight at that point in time, I think the river travel was still, for many years, the cheaper source of freight movement versus railroad. And so the canal was used extensively and still is today. Maybe a little less for freight, more so for pleasure and travel. Nonetheless, it's still an active canal here in the United States.
That's amazing, isn't it? I mean, it's just...
think about the time frame.
Right. That's and they haven't been affected by any drought conditions out that way either, which is great news as well.
Would you say that has a lot to do with the fact they get so much lake effect snow that moisture runoff is part of it? Okay,
that's part of it. That's absolutely part of it. Okay. And you know, parts of the Northeast there just haven't really dealt with the exception of the areas around Boston, haven't really dealt with much drought conditions. It's all been in the western half of the U.S. and like I said earlier, hopefully we can get that changed. So a quick rundown of the forecast locally here. We're looking at a beautiful afternoon. Temperatures in the 70s right now, and we'll see that cold front hit. It's just to the west of the valley right now, so we'll see those winds switching quickly to the northwest and northwest. Probably by about 3, 4 o'clock this afternoon, then falling temperatures after that, and then maybe a few light showers with it, but there's not a whole lot to really worry about. And then tomorrow, after a low of 40 tonight, tomorrow temperatures in the mid-50s, a brisk northwest wind about 20 to 35, maybe a few light rain showers, even colder as we head into Thursday, with highs only in the upper 40s, and I would not be too surprised to see some rain and snow showers mixed. No accumulation, so don't worry about that. But areas up around Lake of the Woods into the Iron Range could see a light dusting. That's not out of the realm of possibility. And then we're staying in the 40s, upper 40s for Friday, and then back into the 50s briefly on Saturday, and then back down into the 40s as we head into Sunday. So I think Mother Nature has said, well, we're flipping the switch. Now, we're not done with the 60s. We will see some warmer weather spread back in, it looks like, by the middle of next week.
All right. Way to redeem yourself right there at the end. Dude. Nice.
Man. So I want to thank everybody for joining us here on Weather and Ag in Focus. Again, if you have any questions for us, maybe you didn't get to answer, feel free to reach out at us, weather@flagfamily.com or ag@flagfamily.com. Coming up next is the Jay Thomas Show. We'll see you tomorrow.
970 WDAY AM and 93.1 FM, Fargo-Moorhead.